So topic is service oriented architecture. In short form we say it as SOA. Okay, service oriented architecture, SOA. What do you mean by service basically? So let me go to paintbrush for better understanding. Before starting the architectural diagram, let me tell you an example. Imagine you are developing one application like e-commerce site. Okay, flipkart.com, amazon.com, myntra.com, whatever. So in that application, imagine flipkart.com, your customer is going, selecting item, selecting price, filtering on this, that, all those data is present in Flipkart database, don't you think? So if this is Flipkart application, then you have something called Flipkart database, maybe somewhere here. Very good. You have your application and here you have database, no doubt about it. Or I will say database server. This I will say application server. Technically we are discussing. So server. In which computer that is available, we are discussing about that. Okay. In a computer we have hosted the application, we say it as application server. In a computer we have hosted database, it is called database server. So we say it as front end and we say it as back end. Absolutely fine. If you take example of Flipkart, then in this database everything present, item, price, model, vendor, discount, whatever information, everything present. So this is communicating both interaction with this. I hope I started recording right. Yeah. So this one also communicating with this. Oh sorry, both way means up and down arrow I will take. Absolutely fine. User is present here and he is continuously using this application. So this is client system or client computer and this is browser maybe, and user is sitting here. Absolutely fine. Now this guy is also both way interacting. Sometimes it is requesting, sometimes it is getting response also. But in this whole process, sometimes the data we need might not be present in this database. For example, imagine you added to cart, everything done, you compare price, all good. Now you are going to check out. Checkout means you are going to pay the stuff and final the order. So when you are going for checkout, it is asking you what is the payment mode. Now you said that by I need credit card payment mode or net banking payment mode, whatever it is. So now tell me some of the credential you are entering there na, ki maybe credit card number, expiry date, PIN, etc. So do you think those three information is available in this Flipkart database? Absolutely not. Because Flipkart is not owner of your bank. Bank is altogether a different system. This application is taking help from bank server, that is different story. So everything sometimes not available in our application server and application oriented database. Sometimes it may communicate with one external resources. Okay, now taking another server, I will take one more color, blue color. Okay, there is one more server. It may not be your server, it may be some other organization server. Like you say flipkart.com, one organization. HDFC Bank, another organization altogether. If you are ticking mark to HDFC Bank, so HDFC Bank service will be consumed there. If you are clicking State Bank of India, State Bank of India service will be consumed there. That means this guy, Flipkart.com, might have used 4-5 services. Maybe Paytm, maybe SBI, maybe HDFC, maybe this, that, maybe 10 banks or 10 payment gateway method differently. So that payment gateway is not ownership, ownership of that payment gateway is not going to Flipkart.com, that is for sure. How many bank owner they will be? Obviously not. Now you will say that, okay, very simple, sir. Why this HDFC bank will not share the connection string to this application, Flipkart.com, and let them enjoy directly to connect with the database of the HDFC. So simply HDFC database is enough. You may think that. I am not saying that is the solution. HDFC database, suppose. Share the connection string to this guy, and .NET coding he is already writing. So that connection string will represent server name, database name, user ID, password, everything, and they can directly communicate with the database, and they will write some bunch of business logic here, and done. You may think, but that is wrong. Nobody will share you connection string, that is for sure. Not even HDFC Bank, not even American Bank, not even State Bank of India. They will never share you connection string of their database. Why? Because you may misuse, right? You will say that, no doubt, payment transaction I am doing for my transaction, my application related transaction. Since connection string has been provided to me, I am open to use anything from that database. I will write few more bunch of code, and I will transfer somebody's money to some other guy. So why should they give you connection string? So in that case, API concept came into picture. Now this HDFC database will not be directly given to you. They will say this HDFC database will be somewhere here. One more application programming interface will be created. One more application programming interface will be created. API full form is application programming interface. Who will create this? HDFC. Similarly, State Bank of India. Similarly, this, similarly that. Just one example. It doesn't mean that only for payment gateway we are using it. If I will take one more example, imagine you are developing one application in travel agency. You have a travel agency. You want your customer, when they access your travel agency website, they should also have facility in this travel agency website to book the ticket in flight. So this API might be Air India, might be, Indigo, might be anything. So Indigo related database and data has not been captured by ABC travel agency. So this database belongs to ABC travel agency. This application belongs to ABC travel agency, maybe one website, but that website has to communicate with Air India or maybe Indigo. So Indigo cannot give database access directly to the ABC travel agency website. They will say, no, not that easy. You cannot use everything from our database. I will give you, but indirectly I will give you. How? Now you pass PNR number or information about thing. If you want to get the status, pass PNR number, I will give you back the status of that. If you want to book a ticket, give me all information. I will go and save in this my database, and I will return you one transaction. That means that coding for database communication will happen between this and this. The coding for database transaction in the Air India or HDFC Bank in payment gateway case, that will be between this and this. So this is called service. This is called service. Service means web service. In 2003, this concept came into market. That time they were saying it as web service. Why they named it as web service? Because obviously it is using web as the environment, but it is like a third party service. Today ABC travel agency captured it, tomorrow XYZ travel agency may be capturing it. So it's a service altogether, right? Ola also using Google Map. Uber also using Google Map now. So Ola separately cannot invest 50 crore rupees to create something like Google Map. Already 50 crore might have been spent by Google. They will say, "Bhai, I am giving you 10,000 rupees per month. You give me the service." So in 1 lakh around whole year they are getting the service instead of investing 50 crore rupees again. So Google is happy because like Ola, they might have more than 1,000 customer involved. So one person is giving 1 lakh rupees means 1,000 customer will give 1,000 into 1 lakh rupees. So Google is happy. This guy is also happy that monthly 10,000 rupees invested and we are getting our business. Why should we invest 50 crore rupees to equalize like Google Map? So Google said, "Bhai, I am giving you service called Google Map. You guys use it." That is what API. So three example I gave here: payment gateway related, or your Indian Railway or your Air India related service. So any third party data is necessary here. In overall understanding is any third party data is necessary here in the application server. Then directly that third party will not give you connection string of the database. So you cannot write the code here in the controller or repository to communicate with their database. You can communicate with your own database only. That's why this web service came into picture. That web service as a second generation, they named it as WCF service. In third generation, they named it as WebAPI. So all of these called API, all of these also called service. Okay, but generation is little different. Currently, that web service generation has not been used by anybody because Microsoft has stopped supporting it. So let's delete it. But today also people are saying web service to this API, web API or WCF service, right? Just a misuse of the word. Otherwise, actually web service means first generation of your service oriented architecture. Second generation is called WCF service. Third generation is called web API. This WCF service is also called SOAP service. SOAP. SOAP. Simple Object Access Protocol. Simple Object Access Protocol. HTTP protocol is not yet used in that. But HTTP is more flexible, more faster, more secure. Many things are there in HTTP because tomorrow you can say that, hey, I will install SSL and HTTP will be HTTPS. So secure HTTP. But those things is not possible in SOAP protocol. But that time technology was not that strong now in 2003, 2004. So WCF came around 2005, but 2002, 2003 web service came. So for 2 years around, that initial generation was there. After that WCF service came, then they upgraded the library to WCF service. Recently, not recently means 1 to 2 years, maybe around 10 years, 2010, 2011. So third generation using HTTP service they initiated. Okay, that is called Web API. So common thing between WCF service and Web API is both are service oriented architecture. Both are following up service oriented architecture. But uncommon thing is one is using SOAP as protocol, one is using HTTP as protocol. When I say HTTP, it can be HTTPS also. Okay. Now, when I will take you to in-depth deep dive of WCF service and Web API, little bit syntactical difference also, facility wise difference also we'll see. But here what I am saying is overall, quick differences, overall difference. So this uses XML as input data as well as output data, and this guy second uses XML as well as JSON. This is JSON is faster even, lightweight. You know, if same data you will save it in XML, if it is taking 20 kilobyte, save that in JSON, it will take hardly 1 kilobyte. UTF-8 format it follows up, just like same paragraph you type in MS Word and save it. Check how much memory it is taking. And same paragraph you type it in Notepad and save it. Check how much that Notepad is taking. Definitely Notepad will take less memory comparing to same paragraph typed in MS Word document. Why? Because of format of the document, format of the file. So XML file is little heavy comparing to JSON, even though same content you can use here and here with different format. So JSON is faster, JSON is flexible, JSON is not repeating the tags again and again, very good format, and easy to serialize and deserialize. I'll tell you a little later what is serialization and deserialization, but okay, there is something called serialization and deserialization process during our WebAPI process. So let's focus to any one of them, because today we are considering overall, not contrasting between WCF and WebAPI, because you don't know anything. Overall, if it is a service, then that service has to communicate with application server just like this. So this is going to communicate with this in both way interaction. Okay. Let's take one example, like three example I gave, any one of them I am taking again. You send PNR number from here to here. Your intention is, in my travel agency website, customers are coming, they should get, current reservation status based on the PNR number. So travel agency website, that means application server, is sending input parameter to WebAPI or WCF service as PNR number. So this service oriented architecture consumes that input, we say it as data contract. When we will go in depth, we will see what is that data contract, service contract, etc. But okay. So input parameter came to the service, and service communicated through some bunch of code, which code is not directly accessible to this guy, application server. So that code is communicated with the service oriented architecture database. So instead of writing HDFC database, it is more appropriate if I will write service database, because not necessarily about payment gateway, it can be anything. So service DB, service DB. If you are considering your service is Indian Railway Service, then IRCTC database. If you are thinking this service is HDFC Bank service, it may be HDFC database, and so on. So this is your SQL server. This is also your SQL server, but there is difference. This is called application server, that is called service server or API server for database. In WCF service, this IP address of your application server will be whitelisted. Understand this point, very, very important. Whichever server is consuming the service, that IP address of the computer will be whitelisted here. If it is WCF service, whitelisted means what you understand? Who can call me? Okay, who can call me? But yes, if you are developing the same local computer, anyway your local computer IP address is accessible without any security, because local computer only having application server, local computer is having WCF server. So that case different story, you don't need any service oriented security. But if you think about the real time deployment, then your consumer IP address has to be whitelisted in your service provider's gateway. That is not your work, that is networking professionals' work, but yeah, I'm just mentioning because overall you are understanding it. So you people, wherever you are working, you have to communicate with that service oriented people saying that, hey, we want to consume this, we paid the money, can you please give us the endpoint URL? They will give one URL to consume here. Practically we will see that, no problem. So that is called endpoint URL. But these guys will tell you, acha, you paid it, no problem. Which gateway you are going to consume, how many computer you are going to consume. They will say we have 100 computer. Then we'll ask, are you connecting all those 100 computers into a gateway in your local area network or metropolitan area network or wide area network, whatever network you are following up? Are you having a gateway? They will say yes, we have. They may say that no, Mumbai based gateway is different, Delhi based gateway is different. Two gateway we want to whitelist. So either it is directly local computer to local computer, or maybe wide area network, or maybe metropolitan area network, whatever it is. But you must be having some gateway. So that gateway IP address will be mapped here as a whitelisted IP address. That means any request coming from that gateway will be entertained by this WSUB service. That was the second generation I am talking about. But now current generation, that also has gone. Further more security we have. I will tell you that in WebAPI. So some security has been followed up. If it is second generation IP address based whitelisting security, if it is third generation, then there is something called CORS policy, cross origin resource sharing security policy. So whatever it is, that means our services have lot of security protocols in order to validate who is calling me, which server is calling me. They have lot of validation. If it is a client call also, I will tell you something called client call. Directly your browser can consume web API, just like this. I will give another different color. Directly from here, the service will be consumed. It will not even ask to your application server. Okay, just like this, possible. So now that time you will say, sir, how I can restrict to IP address? Today in one cyber cafe user is accessing, tomorrow he is accessing in his local computer, day after tomorrow he is accessing from another cyber cafe. So lakhs of computer I cannot whitelist now. Then what to do in that case? There is something called security feature in domain, cross domain interaction. That means no doubt you are accessing from a different unknown computer. IP address not feasible to whitelist, but definitely you are accessing from a domain na, www.something.com. From there only that page is consuming the web API or something. So in that page, which domain is going on? It will say by facebook.com is going on. In facebook.com I have access your service. Or somebody will say no, in ola.com I have used your service, or in flipkart.com I have used your service. So even though you are accessing that application in browser, but that application or website definitely hosted under some domain. In your address bar also that domain is present. You cannot say anything and I will open my yahoo.com. Obviously you have to type yahoo.com, then only you can open yahoo.com. So current domain used that a browser also can be whitelisted here. So either IP address based or server based or domain based or gateway IP address based, whatever it is, but yeah, there will be some network protocol which has to be set by your admin or your networking professional. So all facility are there, but what you are using, our generation will say. Either WSUB service means little differently, web API means little differently. Okay, that means that fearance that some anonymous user or anonymous or hacker can hit the request to my service and he can misuse my data because it's a bank or it may be a reservation database. If somebody will take that data and corrupt, maybe two customers are coming to the same seat and they are fighting each other. I have that PNR number, you have also PNR number. My book also confirmed from that seat, your seat also confirmed from that seat. So that kind of things happens. That's why lot of security protocol they follow. Some are business level protocol, some are in the network level protocol. So whichever applicable for developers, that I will teach you definitely. But whichever networking people have to do, you will also learn, but once you will be going to little, you know, senior level, like if you want to be architect or you want to be, network admin, etc., then you will be learning those. But at least what a developer has to do from the security protocol point of view, that I will teach you. So overall, if you understand this picture, one application is communicating with another application, don't you think? No doubt it is not website or anything, it is one API, but after all, kind of application, some coding is there. Only view will not be there. Here view will be there, which can be opened in browser. Here view will not be there. In our MVC we have view, right? View, controller, model, everything. So view will not be there because directly nobody is opening API in the browser. Browser has been developed by this ABC Limited. That ABC Limited page might be consuming that API, that is a different story. But API itself doesn't have any page as such to be rendered to the browser. That's why it is called application programming interface. It is not UI. User interface is different, application programming interface is different. So it is saying I am having some bunch of coding only, which is communicating with our local database. You don't call our local database. You tell me what to do. Now this guy will say, okay, take my PNR number, communicate with your database, give me your my confirmation of the reservation, or take my credit card number, take the amount, take the account detail, do the transaction in your server, and finally one transaction ID with success or failure, that will reply me. So direct interaction of the application will not have with the service oriented architecture database. That's why this programming interface is required, right? So as a developer, what you people are going to do? You are going to develop first this one. That means right hand side part. Because you never know when you will be working as consumer developer, when you will be working as SOA developer, that means service oriented architecture developer. You should be all rounder. If you are tomorrow working for HDFC Bank as a developer, then you should know how to develop that service. If you are working as Flipkart tomorrow, you should know how to consume that service. In other example, I will say, if you are working tomorrow for IRCTC, Indian Railway Reservation Organization, as a developer, you should know how to develop a service, so that any kind of input parameter will be given by various travel agency websites. Various, why I am saying? Because it is not one to one. One service can be consumed by lakhs of customers. Paytm, tell me. Many, right? Any food application you are going, Zomato, anywhere. There also Paytm is active. There also HDFC Bank is active. So they are just consuming the API from their respective banks. They are paying some amount of money monthly. Okay. Like 5,000, 10,000 rupees. Or some banks they charge transaction wise. If your transaction is 1 lakh, then we will take 0.0001%. So like that they do also. But okay, overall they are paying some money and they are saying that, hey, we want to use your service. So the service is consumed by something called endpoint URL. Let me write that. So HTTP or SOAP, I will write SOAP or HTTP, because SOAP is the old one, are the protocol for request and response, and that request and response will be what? Based on the requirement. It may be JSON, it may be XML input based on the generation. If it is WCF, always it is XML. If it is WebAPI, sometimes XML, sometimes JSON, depending upon your consumer technology. Your consumer is in old technology, imagine. Something like 15 years back, you have developed this application or website. Till then, JSON was not in picture also. Then obviously your technology either has to be upgraded or XML has to be data transportation. So SOAP protocol takes only and only XML. However, HTTP protocol takes XML as well as JSON. But one thing they have upgraded recently, they say it as WCF REST. Okay, when WCF service consumers complain to Microsoft saying that, "Arey, you brought Web API, it's great, no doubt about it, but we have invested a lot of money behind WCF service. Last 10 years, 12 years it is running. Are you asking us to throw out that and redevelop it in Web API?" Then Microsoft said, no problem. You use it because it is tested okay. Last 10 years you are using. Why unnecessarily you will invest money and all that? So if it is only about data transportation fastness, we will allow you through some other additional library. So upgraded library, they gave it in SOAP protocol based WCF service. They say it as WCF REST. Okay. Web API is always REST, representational state transfer. That is a category of communicating between this and this. But WCF service is using, currently we say WCF REST, either WCF or WCF REST. Representational state transfer means your communication media will be JSON, format will be UTF-8 format, and protocol may be generation wise different. So SOAP protocol also can transport JSON with the help of WCF REST library. That also I will tell you when I will teach you practically WCF service. So generation wise everything possible in both, we can say. Today whatever Web API is getting facility, even WCF service can get it, but not 100% correct. Few things still not possible. Like for example, I will tell you, Web API can say consumer will decide XML or JSON, but WCF service says I will decide all consumer will consume JSON or all consumers will consume only XML. Repeating, very important. People will ask you in interview. WCF service says even though you are using WCF service REST, whose core nature is to transport JSON, but WCF service says if you are using upgraded library of WCF service, which is called WCF REST, still your service will decide what kind of the data will be transported across all consumers. If he is using XML, all consumers are bound to use XML. If they are using JSON format, all consumers are bound to use JSON format. But Web API can take a call saying that consumer number 1 wants JSON data, tathastu. Consumer number 2 wants XML data, no problem. So consumer will decide format of the data because Web API supports both XML and JSON at the same time also. So that is one difference. Little in-depth story, maybe nowhere in the book you can get this kind of thing, but yeah, it is true fact. So though in a single sentence they say nowadays WCF REST if you are using, it is as equal as Web API, but it is not 100% correct. Okay, so few things is still gap is there. So that's why the reason why people are more interested about Web API, not about WCF REST. If you say WCF, it is further old. So straight away somebody can say there is a difference between WCF and Web API. But if you say WCF REST, then Web API, very less differences are there. Only practically professionals who are using every day, they can know. Otherwise, in book point of view, if you see, documentation of Microsoft point of view, if you see, they proudly say whatever you are getting in Web API, you will get it in WCF REST, but that's not true. Okay, so they will come to know by this kind of question, really this guy is bookish master or practically he is doing work. Okay, this kind of question available where people will come to know even difference between 3 years experience and 7 years experience. So make sure you are saying no, WCF REST also not as equal as Web API. Many things are there which is not possible. I said CORS policy, right? CORS, domain based cross domain policy. abc.com should be able to consume my API. xyz.com should not be able to consume my API. That is not available there. There it is IP address based. If same IP address, two domain you hosted, you are gone. First domain you are paying the money, from second domain you are consuming it also. But that is called in-depth level, differences, minute differences. But yeah, overall they say document wise WCF REST is as equal as your Web API. Accept it. Who cares? But when you will work in that experience level, you will see that no. Still there is something which cannot be possible in WCF service, in the REST also, upgraded library also, but yeah, that is possible in Web API. So these are few things. Acha, one more thing I want to tell here. REST is the communication media between the consumer and the service actually. Now you will ask me in WCF what they were using. WCF REST is fine. It is still using RESTful protocol with REST approach, representational state transfer approach. But in pure WCF, when this upgraded library was not there, that was using something called WSDL. Let me write that as well. So somewhere here I will write, give me a minute, Web Services Description Language, WSDL. So this guy, second generation, which is called WCF, they were using WSDL, Web Services Description Language. So that is again one approach of communication between the application server and the API server. Even REST is one approach to communicate between application server and REST, this server. So I said, why your networking professional gave IP address whitelisting. So in runtime, who will tell? REST only. So it's a library again, which is telling all the protocols, all the rules, regulations, format of the data, transportation of the data, all will be taken care by this REST. But when REST was not there, that time there is something called WSDL, Web Services Description Language, who was handling your rules, regulations, protocols, format of the data, configuration, everything. Okay. So this is bit conceptual analysis before entering into the practical environment. So when we will go inside the practical implementation of this, currently what I will do, this WCF service I will hold for some time, okay, because in our project we will be using Web API. So Web API fundamental things first I will teach you, okay, at least how to develop an API, how to consume the API. Like I said, cross origin resource sharing, domain cross checking and allowing, security, all those things, authentication, authorization, many things will be there here also. That I will little hold, so that our project will be at least started. Then I will go on teaching you authentication, authorization, security policy. In Web API I will teach you, and then I will give you the work in your application development. So your application will be having application server code also, database also, and your in second application, which you say API application, parallelly you will develop Web API also and its database also. So two application, two database, because you are all rounder now. You are only owner of third party. So when you are doing coding this side, that time you think that you are working as a developer of the third party. When you will do the coding this side, left side, that time you think that you are as a developer working for the consumer side, right? Developer sometimes may develop also service and expose to other people, and sometimes developer may work, other people have exposed you, like HDFC Bank or anybody has exposed you the service. Exposed means deployed. So you got the endpoint URL, and that endpoint URL you are consuming here. So in front end, what to consume here? Consume endpoint URL. Okay. So this is what we will do. Not today, next class we will do. in the practical implementation. Let me save that. SOA, okay, service oriented architecture. Any question, guys?